well. How is your lovely self, Anthony?
I am fantastic. And I was
Very
actually,
good.
when I was, you know, looking at your name and saying your name, I was thinking there's actually a tone to, like a singing tone to it. Fiona Maria. So I just thought it's probably a very fitting name. Your parents, came
I
up
was
with.
destined. I
You're
was
destined,
destined.
destined. So let's bring the listener on your journey as to how you've arrived at doing singing for wellness, singing for
Yep.
corporate wellness.
Singing for
Yeah,
health.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, how far back are we going to go on this journey? How far back?
Well, it could be,
Can I say
you know, when you're
way
named.
back? Way. Okay, let's start with my dad is Welsh.
Okay.
So Welsh are famous for singing, right? Um, I guess. Okay, nowadays I call myself a singing facilitator. Okay, that's what I call myself, and that's what I do. How did I get there? Well, I guess I was very fortunate because I thought everyone had a family where people sang all the time. But as I've gotten older and got further into the kind of work I do, I realized that that's not the case. And this is the root of, some of the, I guess, the misconceptions and misunderstandings people have about what their voice is for. But I was fortunate to have an upbringing where we weren't hothoused. It wasn't like we had to go in the Stedford and the Talent Quest, but we certainly weren't ridiculed or shamed for expressing ourselves in song and dance and things around the house. So that is a beautiful starting point for someone to be confident as a singer as they go through life. I've been a performer, a professional singer all my adult life. Again, not as a kid. I wasn't made to perform as a kid. I did, traveled around the world, and I was in a duo with my ex. So, that was a lot of fun, traveling and, getting to know the world, and through the lens of sharing music is, a beautiful, beautiful connection point, around the world. So had a lot of fun there. Had a few children. Music took a little bit of a backstage, back step. Got divorced, and that was at a point when I thought, oh well, what will my music, what will my singing be like? What will that look like now that I'm in this different landscape? And I hit upon this idea that it would be really nice to sing for residents in aged care, right? Because they're very isolated. And so I already had, I knew all the old songs from my family and that. So I started doing that, and that was about 10 years ago. And then I just organically thought, well, if these people are enjoying singing and music and, reconnecting with memory through song, who else might benefit from this? Where else can I take it? And so then I've done work with children, who, of course, there's a whole conversation about how singing and music benefits children. And then, well, why are older people and children in separate groups? Why don't we bring them together? And so then working in intergenerational spaces where we're connecting the generations through the vehicle of music and song. And another sort of aspect of what I do is perinatal mental health. So, we've got the kids singing, we've got, the adults singing, across all demographics is valid. So I run mums and bubs groups where it's actually mother focused. And then it becomes, well, what about the workplace? Because people in offices are still human, right? We all have human needs. We all have basic needs, and singing is a beautiful sort of glue to bring that together. So I've been able to take what I do, singing facilitation, which I think it's important to note that that's not singing teaching, right? Like, I'm not a singing teacher. I'm a singing facilitator, and the difference being that, like, I'm here to bring out people's innate singing voice, right? We all have a singing voice. We're all born with one. And I don't, I think connecting with that is really, really valuable. And perhaps we'll talk a bit more about that, as we go through the conversation. But so I do, events and workplace things, just with the vehicle of voice, because we all have a voice, and it's very important, and it's quite straightforward and simple, something that everyone can do. So that's kind of been my journey from, being a performer, where it's a bit like, oh, look at me, to being a facilitator, where it's not, oh, look at me. It's, hey, what can we do together? What can we make together? And that's how I run the workshops and the singing circles and the experiences that I facilitate.
Yeah, fantastic. I really love how it's just been your calling from the very, since you were born, and you've just really, I guess, immersed yourself in this world, and now trying to connect as many people from all parts of the world together through singing, which is amazing. And the fact that you say that everyone has a singing voice is probably a bit new to me, because I didn't grow up in a singing family. I tried out at the choir. I was encouraged to have a go at the choir.
Yeah.
I didn't succeed at the choir. And so from that moment, I thought, well, I can't sing. So
yep.
I'm really keen to explore this. Everyone has a singing voice.
So this story you've just told me, this story about I was a kid and then I tried the choir. Look, with all due respect to teachers and choir leaders, there are some amazing teachers and choir leaders out there, absolutely. But the amount of trauma that people carry because of their experience at school choir is phenomenal. And this is what I call voice shame, okay? So nowadays we know that you don't body shame someone, right? You don't talk about someone's body. All bodies are valid. We all have different bodies. You love your body, But voices, I encourage people to take that same point of view to their voice, okay? Voice, we shouldn't shame someone because they don't sound like a trained, experienced professional singer, especially a child, right? Especially a child. Children don't even really know like what singing in tune is. They don't even know that that's what they're supposed to do. So see, now you've got me started. I'll be here. But this story of yours, I hear again and again and again. So many people come to come to me, or I come in contact with people, and they sing with me, and they're like, oh, that was amazing. And I say, oh, when I was younger, I never wanted to sing. I was so scared. I was so ashamed, So young children, so our first language is song. Right? So both as a species, if you look at the evolution of humans from early humans through to modern day Homo sapiens and modern human, we used our voice in a singing kind of a way before we had structured language, right? So we've been using our voice as a species, I'm talking about, as a hominin species, obviously, because if you look at the animal kingdom, like animals have animal calls, right? We evolved from primates, or we have a common ancestor with the primates. So we were using our voices in a singing kind of way, and that was how we communicated. And then much later, we got structured language and grammar and vocabulary and this kind of thing. So if you look at individuals, little babies born, their first language is song. You ever heard a baby or a young toddler, they are singing, they are playing with their voice. They are finding, what does this instrument, what does this toy I have, what can it do? And they're not ashamed. They just do, all the things. And then young kids do that. They run around dancing. They don't care if they're in tune or on pitch or in rhythm. They just, having fun. And then at some point, some teacher, normally a teacher, but says, that's wrong. You're doing it wrong. Stop it. You're not good enough. And this young child, as exactly what happened to you, carries that deep. They go, okay, that's a fact. I'm going to hold that deep. And they carry it for the rest of their life unless something like coming in contact with me or some other experience happens, and then they can be freed from that. That's a thing you carry your whole life. And so why is it important, or why is that damaging? How are we damaging ourselves, or how are we damaged by having that message, carrying that I can't sing message? Shall I tell you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued. So I
Yeah.
really want to hear this, because
There's so much. So, for example, okay, I've got a question for you. What is a good singer? When you say someone's a good singer, what do you mean? What do we mean? What do
well, it's
people
interesting,
mean?
because another question I have for you is, what do you sing? Because there's opera singers, there's rock singers, there's heavy metal singers, and so it's what music really resonates with, with your resonance, I guess. And so for me, like, I'm attracted to rock music. I'm not attracted to opera. I can.
No.
I admire opera singers just because the way they can get their voice up so high. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on that note, I'm not a huge opera fan. Like, there's some arias I love, but again, I appreciate the skill. But of course, to be an opera singer or a professional singer or a performing singer, yes, you need techniques to support your lungs. Your soft palate has to be raised. You need to look after your voice. Of course, you need to be in tune. So if you're a professional singer, unless you're like a thrash metal singer or something, but yes, you need to be in tune. You need to hit the note. You need to have a strong voice and a pleasing tone to that voice, because you're getting paid for it, right? So that's a tiny, tiny subset of humanity. Okay, humanity is all this. I'm trying to do it on the screen. Humanity is all this, and this is a tiny subset. I tell you this, Anthony, the world doesn't need more performers. We don't need more performers. But what we do need is people who are comfortable with themselves, happy and connected. So how do we get those people? With singing, right? So I'm sorry, sort of jumping all over the place a bit here, but when we say someone's a good singer, we mean they can hit the note quickly and easily, and they have a pleasing tone to their voice, like to our ear. So 2 things about that. One is, the right note is the Western music scale, right? That's what globally now, pretty much, apart from some Indigenous music that is in different types of scales, but pretty much global music, pop music, of course, is all in the Western music scale, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. So those notes, 8 notes plus the semitones, is all the notes you're allowed to use, right? It has to be one of those notes or it's wrong. But actually, there's a lot more musical notes between all those notes. So just because you're not using this subset of notes, it doesn't mean you're not musical and you're not singing. Okay, so our voices are tools and toys that we can play with and sing whatever we want. It doesn't actually have to be just that subset of notes that very recently, and literally in the last few hundred years, was decided that they were the notes you were going to sing to be in pitch, and any other note was wrong. Again, Indigenous music has many more tones between those notes. There's much more fluidity in different musical scales and from different cultures. But so that's the first point. Like, just because you're not hitting those notes, it doesn't invalidate your voice. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Okay.
So that skill can be learned. So the skill of hitting notes and pitching, that's what they call pitching notes, can be learned. If you want to, you can learn it. It's like any other skill you can practice. So if you didn't grow up in an environment where that was happening all around you, then of course you're at a disadvantage in that learning, or you're starting later in that learning. Just like if you didn't grow up in a household where, dad took you down to kick the footy every weekend, or mum or someone, then if you come to football, in your teens or adulthood, you're going to be behind the people who've been doing it since they were young. They're just skills that you can learn. So, okay, so that's a little comment, I guess, about, we talk about good singers, but everyone is a singer. And you don't have to be a good singer to be a valid singer, to be allowed to sing.
How do you help an individual find their singing voice? So like I assume that I don't, like I can't sing in tune, put it that way.
Yeah.
So for me, I do podcasting, but yeah, singing for me is a bit, I got to get out of my comfort zone. But I'm happy to sing. I'm just concerned about what other people will think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you help facilitate? Like, so you've got a room full of people and you've got people like me. How do you get everyone connected through singing and bring out their voice?
Okay. Well, firstly, when I facilitate anything, everything is an invitation. Okay. So people can come to a singing circle and actually not sing at all. Just by being in the circle, you're part of the experience. So having said that, that never happens. People will come and say, oh, I'm not going to sing. I say, no, of course, just join, sit, join us, be part of the circle. It's a sound bath, right? When you get human voices singing around you, just have a sound bath, But they always end up singing something with us. So firstly, I think that's just a courtesy, it's an invitation. So people are relaxed. It's hard to sing when you're tense, right? It's actually pretty much impossible to sing. Like, what I mean by that is singing itself relaxes you. But anyway, so people are relaxed. That's the first thing. Second thing is people have an idea that singing is for performance, right? Would you concur? We have this idea that the reason we sing is to perform.
True.
And this message is amplified, thank you, by Australia's Got Talent, Australian Idol, The Voice, all the shows where you get these amazing singers come on who have a lot of experience, and then they're voted off because they're not good enough either. So where does that leave poor me, poor just person X who's looking at these amazingly talented people saying, wow, they're not good enough. I'm definitely not good enough. It's just really bad messaging. So to sing solo, to get up there in front of a room full of people and sing solo is not how humans evolved. That doesn't sit with our natural human experience throughout evolution. We always sung in groups. And when you sing in a group, you're safe, okay? You don't have to. So I say to my singing circles, we don't have 30 soloists here. We have one group, or sometimes we have 2 or 3 groups if we're doing harmonies, And so then again, that's a safety thing. It's like, oh, the spotlight's not on me. So there's a kind of, I guess, psychological backdrop. How you actually get people to sing is you start really basic with humming. So can you hum, Anthony? You can hum. I bet you can hum. We hum up. We're playing with our humming voice. You know how therapeutic humming is for the human being? Like if you never sing, but you only hum, you are doing your parasympathetic nervous system a huge favor. So just to hum, if that's all you want to do, fine, do it. And we learn songs in singing circle or workshops by call and response. So there's no sheet music, there's no electronic backing tracks, there's no YouTube, there's no Spotify tracks, there's no amplification. If it's a really big group, I'll have a microphone just so that people can hear me. But apart from that, so I've just lost my train of thought again.
The humming. So it switches on the parasympathetic nervous system, and you're saying that in order to sing, you need to be relaxed.
Yes.
So that's a great.
So if you're, So we do relaxation first, like with a bit of stretching and things. We do some humming, and then I'll just sing something like hey, oh, hey, and then echo it back to me,
Hey,
and we'll just do.
hey.
See, you just did it. And when you get a room full of people going, hey, oh, hey, it sounds amazing. And I bring in like almost games, really, just fun, playful things. Like one I like to do is, you know that song, you probably know this tune, la 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 la. La 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 la, like that's Knees Up Mother Brown. So instead of doing la la la, we do numbers. We go 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3, like, and everyone just burst out laughing because no one can do the math, right? So this, and people are laughing and they're looking at each other. There's eye contact, there's connection, and they're going, "Oh, I stuffed that up too, ha ha," you know. So this allows sort of a sense of comfort with the people that you're in. You're not in a room of strangers anymore. You're not, and then we just build it up slowly. And the songs that I use in the work I do are what's called circle songs. So that means you just sing the same thing over and over, round and round. So it might be 4 lines of lyrics, you know, four phrases. It might be 8 if it's a lot. It might be 1. It might be 1 phrase just repeated again and again. And so we can learn them quite quickly. I always say, for example, the lyric is the least important part of a song. So while the lyrics can be really powerful and really hard-hitting or really emotional or really funny, when it comes to the process of singing with others and the connection, you can just do la la la. You don't actually have to say the words. And so again, that's like letting people off the hook, you know. So I guess simplifying it, making it not scary, making it fun. And then when you get a room full of people singing a simple tune, what happens when you sing a simple tune is your brain, our human brain, we like patterns, right? And so our brain recognizes, oh, this is a pattern. I know what's happening here. It's a pattern. And so then your brain can relax. And then your brain's like, yeah, I got this. I know this pattern. And then your brain hears your own voice. And for your lizard brain, you know, we're talking about our ancient brain, not our rational brain, but our lizard brain. The sound of your own voice is the safest thing your brain knows. So that's why when we're distressed or anxious, we often talk to ourselves, because our brain wants to hear our own voice. Our brain, oh yeah, I know this voice. This is a good guy. I've known this person all my life. They're good. They're on my team, you know. So the sound of your own voice is safe for your brain. So when your brain goes, I know who this person is. They're a good person. This sound is good. I know what's going on. It's a pattern. I've got it. Then your brain can relax. And that's why it helps your parasympathetic nervous system, because then you're coming into a safety zone.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking in terms of that group connection, because you're singing the same tune and you're not focused on lyrics or anything like that. It's getting in that vibration, you know, sharing that common vibration, which means the bodies are connecting because they're resonating at the same resonance. So,
oh yeah,
yeah, so
absolutely.
Like, yeah, so everyone's singing together and they feel really connected, and it's a strong sense of connection. Well, it's the ultimate sense of connection, because you connect, you know, with the same frequency, and
literally,
that's exactly what you're tuning everyone in to the same frequency.
Yeah, and all those frequencies are going through our body. Like our body is water, right? 70% water. How does sound travel through water? It travels like this, with ripples.
Yes.
But also on I mean, there's science behind this, right? It's not just like, ooh, like feel good kind of, you know. I mean, it's that too, right? It feels good, but there's science behind this. So what is the, like, physiologically within our body, what happens when we sing with other people? So a few things happen. Hormone release. So endorphins are firing, serotonin goes up, dopamine goes up, oxytocin is released when we sing with others. Oxytocin is the love hormone, of course, and it's the trust hormone, and it's the bonding hormone. So it's the same hormone that's released in the parent-baby relationship, bonding, holding a baby. That's an oxytocin release. You get the same hormone released when you sing with other people. So this is a mood enhancer and a bonding amongst the people that you're singing with. So that means when you finish singing with these people, you already trust them. They're already on your team, so to speak. When a group of people sing together, their heartbeats synchronize. So we are literally, as you said, in the same rhythm, the same vibration, the same frequency. When we sing, it's a whole brain activity, right? So there's 10 different areas across our brain that are all being activated by singing. It involves pattern recognition, rhythm, auditory processing, lyrics, so memory, a whole range of emotion if you're singing words, mirroring, you're looking and listening at what other people are doing. So your brain is fully occupied with that task of singing, which is a very pleasant task as well. It's not like an onerous task. And that means you are literally, your mind is full. You are mindfully present. You're mindfully present in that moment. You cannot ruminate about whatever it is we ruminate about, all the problems of the world or what we're having for dinner, or, all the woes of the world, which we all carry. We've all got our woes. You can't ruminate and sing. So it is, in that sense, a self-regulatory exercise, which is something you can do on your own as well. If you sing on your own or hum, but singing even more so, it's a calming mechanism. Shall I share you an anecdote?
Yeah, please do.
So a couple of years ago, kind of towards the end of all the lockdowns, there was quite a lot going on in my family, a couple of sort of, struggles, I guess, of one kind or another. And I had to take my eldest son to a medical appointment in central Sydney, in Darlinghurst, which is somewhere I never drive to, but I thought I'll drive him in. He was like 19, he wasn't young. And then they called me as I was sort of navigating all these one-way streets and all this traffic, which, is a bit on edge. And they said, "Oh, you're late." Well, they didn't say that, but it turned out I'd got the appointment wrong, and we were half an hour late for an hour appointment that we'd waited 6 months for. So I felt terrible, and I dropped him off, and I said, "Look, just go for half an hour, or 40 minutes, do what you can." So I dropped him off, and then I was driving home, and it started pouring with rain, bucketing down with rain, and I'm navigating through the city, and then on the, what do they call it, the freeway out of the city, and there's trucks because it's towards the airport, and there's trucks and everyone's changing lanes, and I'm like, where am I going? And I just started crying, right? And I was driving, and I wasn't just like I was howling. All the stress I'd been carrying about everything that had been going on was just coming out of me, and I was like this. I was like, like this, crying in my car, right? Like just letting it all out. And I thought, Fiona, you could die if you're not if you're carrying on like this. You've got to focus. So I remember I had the hands on the wheel here, and I was like, sing a song of sixpence, a pocket full of rye, 4 and 20, I bring out the nursery rhyme, and I wasn't singing it nicely. I was just, and after a little while, it got to be 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, and then a little bit later it was, when the pie was open, the birds began to sing. And by the time I was home, I was singing all range of things. But this is the immediate effect of singing. You can't have all the other stuff in your head because your whole mind is focused on, oh, we're singing. And it's such a tool. I sometimes I sing in Woolworths because I find the supermarket really overwhelming, you know. And I don't know why there's so many brands of tomato paste, for example. And I just find, and then there's music, and it's just awful. So I'll sing to myself, not out loud, not like, oh, you know, not, but just to myself. And I don't sing nursery rhymes, but, you know, just something, because I find it's my go-to calming mechanism. It's my go-to. And sometimes I'm in a place and I'm like, oh, can I sing? You know, like, is it okay? Because it really calms me. So that's some of the, physiological things that happen when we sing, and why it is shown to be effective self-regulation and mood regulation. Yeah.
Just when we were logging on and we had that technical difficulty, you did default to humming.
Yeah.
I could hear you humming in the process of trying to work out the problem, and you're calming yourself, and
yes,
straight away you just went
definitely.
To humming, and
yes,
so.
definitely. It accompanies me, and I feel calm. So because I get very sensory overload, and particularly with noise, and the world is too noisy. The world is crazy noisy now. I often wear, you know, noise cancelling AirPods with no music, but just because if I'm in the city or on public transport or in the supermarket, you know, the world is too noisy. And again, if we look at sort of our evolution, you know, that's a funny environment for humans to be in, isn't it? That constant noise and unnatural noise. And so singing, you know, the human voice is a natural sound. Like it's an animal call, essentially, isn't it? So it's very calming when you hear, you know, depending on what that voice is doing, obviously. I mean, obviously, if it's screaming at you, it's not calming, but, you know, it can be a very calming sound.
100%. I had a sound therapist on here that uses sound to, you know, and you're using sound and music, you know, for therapy, was, you know, and that was her thing, was sound therapy. And she said that, like, these industrial sounds like engines and stuff like that are extremely low, and we evolved with more higher sounds, like, you know, like listen to birds, like you know, they're really high, and the human voice relative to these motor sounds and these air conditioning sounds and these engines and things like that, it is much higher. And so those lower sounds, and because they're constant, they're not a natural rhythm. Like, so natural rhythms, as you know, with your tonality, it's up and down, and there's gaps when we talk, right? And so it's not like constant. It's not like you know, like
No, it's unnatural, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that really disturbs our you know, our body, because it's not a natural rhythm. And I was thinking of this exact point when I was outside and I'm doing my writing, and I had this tick sound just above me, and it was just becoming really overwhelming, sensory overload, just because it was a constant tick and there was no variation. Whereas in contrast, I had the birds flying around me, and they were, you know, little chirps and, you know, little flutters and different types of chirps, and low and high, and yes, and that was so much more. I just wanted to tune into that and zone out of that, and this is what I love about the work you do, is you really allow people to tune into one another. It's that sense of connection, that sense of mindfulness, that calming. It's all these things that we don't have enough of today. You know, we're very disconnected, lonely.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's very, to sing this way. So on the weekend, I remember I mentioned to you, but you had, you're busy. I did a singing circle in the park in the Domain in the city. And, you know, the comments I get from people afterwards, like, it's so heartwarming for me. It's so well validating and just heartwarming. But again, as you said, we don't do this anymore. Singing has become professionalized and monetized. But this is really primal. this is something humans have been doing for hundreds of thousands of years. So for thousands and thousands of generations of human existence, we have gathered and sung. And then with the advent of recorded music, and then radio, and then of course television, and now streaming, it was like, well, why would I sing when I can listen to, I don't know, Pavarotti, Ella Fitzgerald, whoever, you name it, streaming through. And we lost, music became something that other people do. Singing became something that other people do for us. It became entertainment, and you needed to be good enough, to do it. But prior to the advent of recorded music, pretty much if you didn't sing, you didn't get any of that, around you, because it was up to people to provide their own, music and singing and make their own songs, make up their own songs. And it's really primal, and it's very moving. It really hits here. And what we do in Singing Circle is we sing. So the complexity, if you want complexity, and it comes from everyone singing a simple phrase or a couple of phrases, and then having the harmonies like stack on top of each other, right? So that's where you get a really rich sound from different harmonies, different tunes, being sung at the same time. But the complexity doesn't come from lots of words, lots of instrumentation, it's simplicity, but then it becomes complex when you layer up the simplicity. And this hits hard, like it's very moving. I tear up quite a lot when I'm facilitating, and so do people in the circle. And people will come and just say, oh, that was so amazing. Because our brain recognizes this. Our brain goes, finally, I got what I need. Finally. And it's like a homecoming. You're coming home to what it means to be human and what it means to be connected to other people authentically. And it doesn't require talking. So in my humble opinion, funny thing to say on a podcast, talking is overrated. Talking is way overrated. We think nowadays if you can talk the talk, you can convince someone of your argument, you can sell them something, you can change their mind, you can win the argument. This kind of skills at talking is very much highly regarded. And I think there's a place for talking. We're doing it now, right? Talking is really good for sharing information and for sharing opinions. But frankly, there's too much of both of those things nowadays. But singing, so one of the activities I run is a women's singing circle, and it's particularly focused on the perinatal period, so before and after birth, but it's open to women of all ages, right? And I trained with an organisation in the UK called Singing Mamas, and they use group singing for perinatal mental health support. So given that we're in the middle of a mental health crisis in the world for all sorts of reasons, which are beyond this short podcast to go into, but I'm not alone in having, first-hand experience of navigating the mental health system on behalf of, people in my family and in our community and that, right? So when life is tough and you're struggling, either you yourself or because your loved ones are, or people, you don't want to talk about it all the time, right? So you go somewhere and someone says, oh, how are you doing? And your answer is, oh, really, can I say, really crap, awful. And then, oh, what's up? You don't want to tell people. You don't want to open your cupboard and air all your woes to the whole world. Sometimes you need to, but you still want to feel connected to people, right? You don't want to sit at home alone and just feel miserable. So this is where singing comes in. You can come to a singing group and you're authentically connected to people. You can just gently sing or not. You can just sit and listen, you can just participate as your capacity allows you. But you're still part of the group. and you still have connections with these people. And then maybe later, if you want to talk to them, then you've got a really firm basis that you can come from when you're talking to them. But yes, that's another thing I like. Even I, as a facilitator, sometimes I'm not quite, peak energy or something's happening in my life, and I'm just like, oh. And I go to singing circle as a facilitator, and it uplifts me and it boosts my mood, and I think, this is medicine. It's medicine. Yeah. Oh. Sorry, I can't hear you.
So yes.
So, there you are.
So what I was saying is that that what you experience through that emotional release in the circle is that connection between the brain and the heart waves are in resonance. They're in sync, and hence you get this release of energy from the body. And so I think that's probably why periodically people just burst into tears, because everyone's going to hit that sort of brain heart synchronicity at different times, and you probably hit it much quicker than others because you're very trained at just getting yourself into this sort of zone. So and the other thing I was thinking when you were sharing was that sense of connection is enhanced above talking, because you're doing the same thing, right? So you're all humming, or you're doing something the same, and so because you're doing it, you just hear your own voice. You don't hear the other person's voice. In talking, it's sort of one person talks, you're thinking about what you're going to say. You're not purely present. Whereas in this sense of and there's a sense of judgment. Am I safe? Is this person? What does this person want from me? Whereas when you're all in that circle singing, you're all doing the same thing at the same time
for the same reason, I guess. Without having to second guess.
Yeah, and you're in your own headspace because you're just hearing your own voice, essentially. Like you do hear that collective, but you don't hear distinguished voices. So there's no, there's no, like so there's a sense that judgment is just released, and it's just you in your own space, and but feeling part of a bigger collective because you're all doing the same thing. It's just shared experience.
Oh, it's really powerful. You got to come next time. I'm going to get you along.
So how can the listeners, how can the listeners as well as myself join you in one of these circles?
Well, the best thing is to follow my socials, of course, because you'll know where I am and what I'm doing where. So that is Sing High, Sing Low.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll include that link in the show notes, listeners, and I thoroughly recommend you go to singhighsinglow.com.au.
Yeah, and if one thing I will say to people listening, if you have at work, you have a workplace wellness program, you have team building, we have all these things, the most effective activity you can bring to that is singing. So if you can't come to my singing circles because of time or geography, I will come to you.
Fantastic. And it would be absolutely, really important in, bringing the workplace together, and particularly in these.
100%. All the reasons we've spoken about, equally apply when you've got a team of people who are trying to, do a project together or work together or achieve something together.
And a fantastic icebreaker for any meeting
or
conference.
Yes.
So really thank you, Fiona, for coming on the Me&my Health Up podcast. Really appreciate your time and enlightening us.
My pleasure.
In this space of singing, and that we all have a singing voice, and I've really connected with that today, and I will come along to one of your singing groups to have the full experience. So thank you so much, Fiona.
Well, I look forward to having you, Anthony. Thank you so much for having me on, and
You're welcome. And to the listeners, please share this far and wide, because everyone has a singing voice. We want them to connect with their singing voice, and so that they can have another tool in their toolkit to help them when they're struggling at any point, or when they're needing to get present. Like, so for example, if you're heading into a big meeting or a big presentation, you could resort back to Fiona's toolkit of hummings and things like that, and rhythms.
Just a little short mantra. You can just have a little mantra that you just sing over and over a couple of times, and
100%.
I could talk more, but I think I hope people now have a bit more understanding. Have we've some of the misconceptions about our voice? Maybe we've done that. I hope we've done that together.
We can always do a part 2. So the listeners would love to have
part 2
you
is going to be after you've come to Singing Circle. Yeah, okay.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay, Anthony, I'll leave you there.
Okay,
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Fiona.
Bye.
Bye. Excellent.